Welcome to a brand new edition of Close Up with Perri Nemiroff. Today's guest is John Carney, director of Flora and Son. Hello again. You know how much I love your movie. Congratulations.
I do. Thank you very much. It's nice to hear it.
So the first order of business today is the Close Up Essentials. Some rapid fire questions about movies for you. First one is, what movie do you quote the most?
American Werewolf in London.
Can you give me your favorite quote?
That's enough. That's enough. I wasn't finished. He says it twice.
If you had to get a movie-inspired tattoo, what would you get and why?
Something from Spinal Tap. Let me see. What would I do? Oh, sure. Sex Farm.
I love these answers so much. What is your most unusual movie-going habit?
My most unusual movie-going habit. I hate in America, and presumably maybe in Canada, when you go to a cinema and you're sitting there and the air conditioning is freezing. And I'm like, what is up with people in this, well, particularly in the US, with needing to be freezing? Where's the blankets?
I'm going to see a movie right after this. I have a hooded sweatshirt and a jacket to go over it.
So it's not just me then?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely me as well.
Okay.
What's your most memorable movie-going experience?
My most memorable movie-going experience was probably in the Screen cinema in Dublin, the Screen on the Green, I think, or was it the one on Stephen's Green, and I was sitting watching a movie, and it was probably 1980 something, and a giant rat ran across the bottom of the. There's nothing to do with the film, but the cinema has been torn down.
I'm shocked as a New Yorker. I've never experienced that.
It was the dirtiest place, and it was amazing. We saw great films there, but it was like you had to be careful.
What is a piece of movie memorabilia that you own and cherish?
I have the clapperboard from Sing Street, my own film, and I love having that. That's the only kind of piece of memorabilia. But did you mean from somebody else's movie?
Could be either.
I'm trying to see, do I own like cups or things from other movies? I have a couple of great film posters that I'm very happy with. American Werewolf in London.
As you should.
Yeah, but I don't know actually. Yeah, we'll stick with the Sing Street clapperboard.
It's a good one. I'm a prop store addict, so anytime my favorite movie puts props and stuff up there, I have to buy
I see. Yeah,
more and more and more. It's a
Okay.
problem. Do you have a favorite filming location? Not necessarily a city, but a specific location that you've used in the past that you look back on fondly?
Yeah, I think I have a really weird habit in all films that I do of saying they go up onto the rooftop. And it's like, I can't not finish a screenplay with that. Or a bicycle. I have a lot of scenes in movies where I put the character on a bicycle for a minute, and in that sense I say the character is liberated for a moment from the plot of the movie by putting them on a bicycle. And the rooftop thing, and they're kind of cliches, but the rooftop thing to me, I don't know why, because I don't have a rooftop, there's something about poking your head out and getting up and coming out onto a roof where you're kind of not supposed to be, that is childish and like an adventure. And I put it in so many films. There's one, Begin Again, where they all sing a song, and in Flora and Son they...
A+ rooftop scene in Flora and Son. I love that moment.
Yeah. Put it on the rooftop is what I would say to all filmmakers. You're in trouble, you're in despair, put the scene in a rooftop. It'll work.
If you could learn more about one other job on a film set or even in post, what job would you pick and why?
I'd like to learn about editing. I'd like to learn how editors stay up all night looking at screens and editing and they're so dedicated. That's an area. And I think that probably editing is the really only true art form in movies. Like, because there was everything in a movie there was a version of in the 19th century, right? Except CGI now, but that's very recent. But like everything that you're doing on a movie, there's a version of doing on a stage, on the stage, except editing. You couldn't make a cut from one location or person to another in the way that you could when movies were invented, and that's something that I would really love to learn, the power of an edit.
I appreciate that. It sounds so simple, but when a particular cut hits at just the right moment and you get chills, like that
and the cuts you don't even
mastery
notice.
Right there.
The cuts that you don't even notice, that if somebody said, did you notice that and you'd be like, I'm so involved in that person just got the note right, that I didn't even notice it was there. And so many movies are messed up by, the editor had the boxing gloves on.
One last essentials question for you here. What is something that is left on your directing bucket list?
Well, I would love to make a horror film.
That was the best answer you could ever say.
Really?
I love all storytelling. Horror is my number one.
Really, yeah.
I would love to see you make a horror movie.
Well, I think I would try and make a horror film that gave me the joy that only very few, because I don't like gory, but there's certain, it's like with certain genres, like musicals. I'm not a crazy musicals guy, but if in my top 10, there's 2 musicals. I'm not a crazy horror guy, but in my top 10 of films, there's definitely 2 horror films. You'd have to respect that genre because you're in a dark room and through the tools that were just talked about, editing, filming, lighting, somebody has scared the shit out of you and made you run for the door. That is an incredible skill. And likewise with musicals, somebody with those same tools has made you cry or feel something incredibly deep with a piece of music and a singing or dancing or whatever. They're very pure expressions of the film making experience. And I've done the musical thing quite a bit, and I've never done the horror thing. And I'd love to find a story that I could feel like now I can retire and scare the absolute pants off people with that last movie.
I am here for this. I love this idea. I'm hoping we're speaking it into existence. Well, there's some great ones, but there's not enough of them. Ever see Anna and the Apocalypse?
No.
Great horror musical.
Oh, really?
Stage Fright's quite good.
Okay.
There's a couple out there, but we need more.
Rocky Horror, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And are they scary?
They have some truly scary, tense scenes. Mm-hmm. I would say they're probably a little more joyful than most horror movies, or what one would imagine as a traditional horror movie.
Okay, interesting.
All right, that takes us into our first main question here quite nicely. Do you remember the very first time that you brought a movie home with you? Whether it was a horror movie that kept you up at night, a movie toy you had to run and buy, something like that?
I remember exactly what that movie was. And it was 1981, and it was a film called The Clash of the Titans, with Harry Hamlin and Laurence Olivier is in it, and loads of really good English actors. And it was... it's actually a very good movie. Ray Harryhausen did the special effects, and it's a really good retelling of the Perseus story. There's a flying horse, there's a beautiful sword, there's a gorgeous girl, there's a swamp monster called Calabas, there's the Kraken, and I'm 12. And it's like, this is made for me. And it was really atmospheric. It's a very unusual film, actually. I really highly recommend it. It's its own. There's no movie quite like it. It has a lot of the sort of Jason and the Argonauts, 1960s Hollywood sword and sandals about it, but it's 1981, but it's before Spielberg and it's before. The 90s. It's its own movie, which is what I love about American Werewolf in London. There's one movie.
It's true.
And that's it. I'd love to make. I mean, I think that's a really cool thing to strive for, is be the person who made that one movie. Yeah.
I love talking about the power of movie magic, but I'm curious, have you ever felt the power of movie magic on your own set, where you're busy filming a scene and it's like the whole world just melted away? You didn't even realize the crew was there anymore because you were just so lost in what was happening on set.
Yeah, I think I allow myself to go into that zone occasionally. I don't think you can quite do it because when you're looking at when you're looking on a film set as a director, you're looking at the screen, or but you also have this peripheral view of my job, the crew. Is everybody happy? Is that light going to fall? Is that thing going to fall? But I'm also I actually love when you take home the footage and you look at it in a frame now and you cry, or you see something, you feel something. I didn't feel that on set. Jesus, those actors really know how to work that screen, because it wasn't there. So I'm not sure if what you're saying is possible for me, because I feel like it's all about only seeing, between these two lines. And that's where the focus of the emotion comes. And you should only feel it when it's presented to you in that frame. So when I'm on a floor, there's so many things going on that I don't let myself get too carried away. But I know when it's going, I feel like I have an instinct to know, take 6, the one where she dropped the thing and leaned out, that's going to be the take. And I'll say that to Script Super. So I think it's take 6, you know.
All right, next thing here that I have for you, because I feel like there are so many people out there who discover a love of song and music via your movies, but I want to know, what is a movie that's done that for you, but with a different personal passion that the filmmaker might have, or another craft out there?
I've had so many movie experiences where I've gone in one person and come out another person. And actually, I spoke to somebody. I have a book called The Movie That Changed Your Life or something like that at home. And there was a friend of mine who saw it in my house and was like, I don't think I've had movies that has happened. And I was like, Jesus.
Are they watching any movies?
They're more of a book guy.
Okay.
So for them, it was novels. But for me, I could just go on mentioning movies that like I felt like I was changed by that. I wasn't the same. I could just name 1,000 movies for me.
I'll take a couple.
I mean, like the cliched ones are things like, you know, Taxi Driver, which I suppose everybody has had with that movie. Again, it's like there's a before and after you see that movie. And once you've seen it, you're like, I've now seen that. Where there's a bunch of other 70s movies that are quite good. And then there's Taxi Driver. I mean, so many films. Le Quatre Cents Coups, the Truffaut film. I'm trying to think of an American, like Some Like It Hot. I think once you saw that film, it's like, how can a film be that beautiful and perfect? You know, and make you want to be a filmmaker and give your life up to the craft. There's quite a few, you know, but it is I don't get it as much now as I used to get it. We need to make better films.
Okay.
That's a big thing, I think. You know, we need to get back to the power of, because to me, you don't need much to make a great film. You know, it should actually be, like in the same way, like there's some perfect inventions in the world, like a violin that's developed over time, but it's frozen when it's perfect. And I think a film camera and the ability to project that on a screen, whether it's like on a Super 8 projector on a rag you hang on a wall, you shouldn't need too much to be able to tell a story and move people. And I often find that it's the films that limit themselves to those kind of rules that affect me the most. And I'd love to see films, in a weird way, get more simple.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm experiencing that at TIFF in particular.
Right.
And it's a nice reminder of the importance of the simple versus the more elaborate that we've become accustomed to. Mm-hmm. You have many things in your movie I want to celebrate right now. In particular, I just want to make sure everybody out there knows Eve Hewson's name.
Yeah.
First, more broadly, what is it about her that you think makes her special, where people should seek her out, not just in Flora and Son,
Yeah.
but also keep an eye out for her going forward?
Yeah, I think that I could talk about a lot of things that she has in terms of being an actor and her discipline and her humor and her, you know, she's a real team player. She's a grafter. She works really hard. They're all really good things, but a lot of people have them. What I think, Eve, if I'm really being honest, and I've been thinking about it a lot, because like, why do I like her so much in this role? I think she has a face that is a brilliant face. Like, and I really do. It's funny, but it's very, very pretty, obviously, but there's something about her face that's so full of character, and she reminds me in a way of a thing that we lose sight of in films an awful lot, which is faces. Whether it's the Greta Garbo face or Gloria Swanson or, you know, the classic Jean Gabin face. Faces are what we kind of forget now in this digital era of like 1,000 cuts and explosions and distractions. For me, really, you know, there's a number of ingredients going into a movie but at the end of the day, I'm looking at Humphrey Bogart and it's not just beauty or something, or, you know, that's the face. It's the face, and we often lose sight of that. And I think, like, in the film that I did, Begin Again, you're looking at Mark Ruffalo. There's something about his face. Now, he's a handsome guy, but even if he wasn't really handsome, he has something in the eye, there's something in that face that you just want to keep returning to. And you find as an editor, every time you cut to him, something happens. Each time you cut, there's something there. And that's what movies are faces, these huge, 8-foot tall faces that we projected on the screen. Can you imagine what that was like in the 20s or 30s? You'd go to see this movie and this face would come up on the screen. And I think she, ultimately, that's just, she just has that face that you're like, what's going on there? It's funny, but it's different. And I think that's it, in the end of the day, it's and we forget it. We do, as film directors, we think it's about, the pyrotechnics or the crane shots or the great dialogue that I wrote or that such and such wrote. But actually, it's kind of about looking at somebody's face and for the face to be able to transport you, but also for you to be able to project yourself onto a little bit. It's weird, it's strange, but she's definitely got that, and it'll be there forever. I think she'll have a really, I can't wait to see what she'll do. She'll definitely do a horror film. She'll definitely do some cool horror film for sure. She's naturally funny, but I don't see her doing like goofy movies. I see her doing like smart, I could imagine Judd Apatow casting her in something. I could imagine horror, comedy. She'll definitely do a period movie. It'll be interesting to watch her career.
You now need to reunite for a horror movie together.
Yeah, well, we actually do have, myself and Eve and Jack actually have a little thing that we talked about a few months ago, which we may try and do.
I'm rooting for that.
Yeah.
All right, I can't not talk about the music in the film. So of all the songs that you create with Gary here, which one came to you two the most easily, where it's like the right idea magically appeared, but then I also want the one that was most difficult to, conceive and then evolve to the point that we find it in the finished film?
I think out of all of the films that I've done, we did the most work actually on this film, which is weird because the music doesn't play as big a role as it does maybe in other films. But it was harder. It was the film is about two not great musicians who write songs that you feel like that should be easier to do, but it was harder to do because we had to try and create something catchy and beautiful out of the limits of the tools that our characters were telling us they have, which is, I know, 8 chords for her. She's just learned the guitar. The Joe character didn't make it as a singer-songwriter, and the kid is playing on GarageBand with his headphones. He doesn't have friends who are musicians. So it's going to have those rules. It has to sound like it comes from those 3 characters, but you don't want it to be shit. So you've got to, and that took ages for us to formulate what that sound was. But now we have to actually write lyrics, and we have to write, and often we would get the actors in and say, will you give us a lyric, and how do you feel about this? And we involve them in the lyric writing process on a couple of songs. For that reason, we couldn't give them something perfect and say there, because they'd be like, well, hang on a second, I'm only supposed to know this many chords. So we had to use those limitations and turn those limitations into challenges and little things in the movie that people can go, oh, that's good that she doesn't go to too complex a chord. That's clever. But it's nice, but it's not it's not Steely Dan, or it's not funky or jazzy. She's not going to know that stuff yet. And the naivety is charming and it's enjoyable. It doesn't feel like it's kids playing. It feels like it's adults who aren't quite there yet, but there's something in this that's fun to listen to and to watch being performed.
Can confirm, I could talk to you about this movie all day. I'm not allowed to, so I'm going to say congratulations,
John. Thank you very much. Cheers.
To everybody out there, that is a wrap on this edition of Close Up with Perri Nemiroff. Trust me when I tell you, seek out Flora and Son.